Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Institute for Personal Development, where total consciousness is the new frontier. Kriya Yoga is the union of the individual with the divine. Join us as we explore the practices that initiate this process.
Well, good morning and welcome to the Voice of Yoga. Let's talk consciousness. I am your hostess, Lisa Winton, and with me is Kenny Toy, also known as Swami Jayananda, founder of Institute for Personal Development, located here in Hampton, New Hampshire. Good morning, Swami. Thank you for being here today. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good today. How about you?
I'm doing great today in this Monday morning. It's snowing. It's beautiful outside. And, you know, what other way should we celebrate the equinox than having a snowstorm? I think that's awesome. And I want to thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Today on the Voice of Yoga, we'll be talking about the sun going into the Zodiacal Sign of Aries. The Spring Equinox is a time of equal day and night and the beginning of the growing season. We'll explain some of the benefits of getting behind the creating forces of the fire sign of Aries. Remember, Aries is the first sign of the zodiac because Aries likes to be first. Starting at the beginning can eliminate a lot of backtracking and doing over. Listen in and get started. Join the Kriya Yoga Spiritual Advance, get the light in your soul, and become the person you are intended to be. So, Swami, let's get started. What are some of the main factors that we should be aware of this particular spring equinox?
Well, I think the spring is just a good time for planting. It's a good time for new beginnings. It's a new time. It's a great time when everything is starting out, when you can start to see the buds on the trees and the flowers starting to break the ground. And that's a great time for us to initiate something that we have intention for.
You know, I was reading in the 365 Tao book yesterday by Dengming Tao, and the topic or the word of that day yesterday was spring. And in it he says, the cycle of the seasons will continue in succession. There is no such thing as a true stopping in time, for all is a continuum. And I think that's important to realize, like sometimes we approach certain seasons with trepidation, sometimes with excitement, but in my feeling, I think we should approach every season with this knowledge that it's just a continuum of the whole.
Well, sure. I mean, having that broader sense of awareness about everything you do, cycles within cycles, and, you know, the small and the simple explains the large and the complex, and how everything affects everything, relativity. And then being able to break things down, because there are times for beginnings and there are times for endings, and then, of course, you know, like even if you read today's Tao, the whole thing of how to keep things, how to perpetuate something is to kind of keep it in balance. That if you want to terminate something, then just let it go beyond its apex, its high point, and it will crumble. It will collapse. And so the equinox is an interesting time of the year because it's equal day and night. Everything is naturally in balance for us at this time.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love today's passage in the Tao book as well, because it's exactly what you said. You know, to destroy something, lead it to its extreme. To preserve something, keep to the middle. So it's a really interesting philosophy, and I think that's something that we could probably learn to do every day in our own lives. I want to just say one more quote from the book, and I think it's really very good. And he says, "Let us take comfort in being part of nature." And I think that's part of the things that one of the things that we don't do as well in this particular country is really embracing what is around us, our nature world, and to be a part of that. And then he goes on to say, "For life has enough misery and misfortune. Philosophy reminds us enough of the transience of life. Give us the charm of the ephemeral and let it silence all who would object." I just think it's just a good reminder that to really live in the natural world that we have and embrace what it has to give us and learn from that.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you. I think with our Western socialization that we are far too insulated from our natural environment, and we're kind of, I want to say we live in a much more controlled environment rather than really kind of getting in sync with the rhythms and cycles of the seasons. And I always think everything is physics. You can't ever gain something where you don't lose something, and so I think a lot of what we've gained with some of the comforts that we are able to achieve, I think we've lost with some of the insights, like you said, that come with just being in tune with what's happening in your natural environment.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said for what you were saying earlier about, spring is the season to start growing, and I think we could even not just take that in a physical sense, but also in our own spiritual sense. So not only just plant the seed in the ground for your fruits and vegetables, but also let's plant the seeds in ourselves to grow spiritually. And then how would we do that?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that we always really talk about is the whole thing of reprogramming your body to use what it needs, what it really does need, as a source of validation, as a symbol that tells us that, hey, I'm okay. Because it's the ultimate coping skill. During the spring equinox would be, like you said, it's an optimal time to get this light in your soul, to get this symbol internalized in your body. And then, of course, to use the rest of the year to cultivate that, to continue to perpetuate and draw upon that resource. Because it's not just hocus pocus, that the forces that are really important to us, when they are internalized in the body, they do affect changes.
Right, like you can almost feel the excitement that people have that, when it was Groundhog Day and now when they knew that, spring was like right around the corner, people start getting excited. And it's just very interesting because remember back when we talked about the first day of winter and we were saying that, this is a time of year where we withdraw, we go within, we stay within ourselves, and that's your time of reflection. And then spring is just kind of that, like that bud opening, it's like everybody's like up in atoms and they're, ready to do something. So it's just very interesting how we actually, probably without even knowing it, that we actually do take on what these seasons really do mean to us.
Yeah, it definitely has an effect. Because, just say, for example, the whole thing that when the days are shorter, it kind of forces you to be a little bit more internalized with your efforts. It causes you to be a little bit more withdrawn from the outside world. Or it can. I mean, there are some people that, just are able to keep things going all year long, with cross-country skiing and snowboarding and snowmobiling or whatever we do, and just to keep the activity level up, and which can also be good because you can still have your quiet time and still have your activity level up. And basically, that's the whole thing of being able to maintain that balance that you were talking about to perpetuate things.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think there's something to be said for, communing with our natural world that I said earlier, even in the winter time, like you said, snowshoeing and cross-country skiing and all of that, ice skating, all that stuff. But I'd like to ask you some questions let's talk about the sun going into the Zodiacal Sign of Aries. And we said in the summary that, Aries represents the fire. So, and we know, and I'm reading from the book, The Wisdom and Way of Astrology by Swami Kriyananda, and it says the nature of Aries is hot, dry, and fiery. So what can we learn from that in relation to what's going on right now? What should we be aware of?
Yeah, the whole thing of the element of fire, that fire physically is endurance, and mentally it is your intuition. And so, and of course, it is a cardinal sign, which is part of the creating forces of the universe. So again, just like any new season, all cardinal signs, it's the beginning of something new. It's a creating force. And so it does have an uplifting energy to it. And if you can kind of get behind that, it will give you some momentum. And also the whole thing of endurance to keep things going. And of course, springboarding it into when things go into Taurus, which is the fixed sign of the season, is an important transition to be able to build into, any of your endeavors, that you could, because Aries can be a great initiator, but they're not a good finisher. So you have to be able to kind of switch gears as your momentum starts to pick up, and then you have to get behind the fixed energy of the next zodiacal sign that follows it.
Oh, wow, that's really interesting. You had said in the summary that Aries to be first. I think that's interesting to have a sibling that is an Aries, but I never really thought about him kind of having that particular characteristic about himself. So is that what you mean by it's a starter and not necessarily a finisher because it is the first sign, the head sign?
Well, that's part of it, I think. And then again, it's very hard to pigeonhole people, that everybody has a lot of different things. You have a rising sign, you have other planets that will influence your personality, and the other thing is a lot of us sometimes don't integrate the actual sun sign, that we oftentimes can project that and have that lived out on, from someone else. And that's a big part of why you would use your birth chart to try and see how much of that information have I identified with and assimilated. Because a lot of times you can actually be going over some of the characteristics of planets in certain zodiacal signs, and people are like, well, that's not me, that's not me, that's not me. And to find out that a lot of it is just being projected, that they have not identified with that. So they identify with certain aspects of the chart, but are in denial of other aspects. And that's a big part of your practice of yoga is identifying and integrating all of the aspects of your chart.
Oh, that makes perfect sense, because I have thought those very same words myself when I was younger and interested in learning about my sign and this, that, and the other thing. And I've always wondered that, well, I am kind of like this, but I'm not really so much like this part of my sign, and always kind of wondered why that was. So I imagine probably just spending some time and studying all the aspects of my chart, like you said, would help me to integrate that information. Is that what you're saying? To try to integrate that? Well, that's interesting. So if the sun is in Aries right now, we said that we can start at the beginning and we can eliminate a lot of backtracking and doing over. So you're saying we should really kind of set some goals and objectives maybe to finish. But maybe we'll get back to that when we come back, and we're going to pause to hear a word from our sponsor. So listeners, we'll be back with you in a few moments.
Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnamudachyate.
If you are looking for a Samadhi-based experience, IPD Kriya Yoga has the goods. A complete yoga program that includes the practices and the process. Kriya Yoga Series 1 live classes and videos. Get your arms around the spiritual science of Kriya Yoga.
You know, the intention of why we practice is to embody the spirit, to feel connected to the life force.
Kriya Yoga Asana live classes and videos. A cosmically engineered system of exercises to initiate apotheosis. A system of exercises engineered for dining and dancing at the Cosmic Ballroom. Kriya Yoga Series 2 live classes and videos. A practice in open forum designed to facilitate positive growth of consciousness. Get your Labyrinth video.
I find the positive side of it is it pulls a lot of things together.
Kriya Yoga Mantra and Meditation. With repetition comes absorption. Pray on prana and become divine.
At the same time, we all have a unique talent and gift to give back to the universe.
Private sessions. The mysteries of the universe have always been handed down verbally from teacher to student. Call or click now and get started. 603-929-0303 or www.ipdtransform.com. Namaste.
Purnamariya Purnameva Vashishate.
Well, welcome back. For those of you just joining us, you're listening to The Voice of Yoga, and we are talking consciousness. So, Swami, let's get back to that comment/question that I had right before we took the break. And we said in the summary that starting at the beginning can eliminate a lot of backtracking and doing over. Now, are you saying because of what you said earlier, like Aries is a good starting point, but it's really not a good finisher, but we have to really know what it is we want to start first?
Oh, absolutely. And that's a big part of how we do things in Kriya Yoga is intelligently. We create a plan. And part of creating a plan is that as a beginning, a middle, and, of course, an end, or something that you are going to try and perpetuate and continue. But in order to do that, it really is helpful if you know ahead of time what your goals and objectives are, and then to create your plan to actually accommodate your goals, as opposed to just shooting from the hip. Because that can be one of the things that they say about Aries. It's ready, fire, aim. It can be a little bit coming on a little too strong, and so but to use the Aries energy with some guidance is optimal.
I believe that's what our Theory 2 classes on Thursday can probably help us out with, is learning to integrate what's available to us, cosmically into our lives, and kind of keep us on track, but at the same time, use what's available to us to, assist in our own growth. Not just, know what my daily horoscopes are, but, what is it that I can really gain from this, and what I gain from, what can I actually give back? Because I think that's a big part of it too. It's like what you get, anything that you benefit from we should spill out and give it back to the universe in some way or another.
Oh, absolutely. And again, I mean, that's a big part of your Kriya Yoga practice is finding your sense of purpose. That we may have a unique talent, but the universe does expect us to give back. And of course, the whole thing of unique talent and all of that stuff is a very interesting thing, because there's enough research out there. Because when I was growing up, people thought talent was something that was a God-given gift, and actually what we're finding out more and more is it really is more of a mindset than it is any type of gift. It's just people have a tendency to spend more time doing something deliberately. So somebody who has a great interest in music would spend more time maybe playing a particular instrument, which would eventually develop into becoming really skilled at that instrument, as opposed to somebody who occasionally picks it up and plays it. So, and those are things that I think are really important to understand, because it's helpful. It's helpful if you don't have these limiting concepts about things, that you recognize that you can develop yourself, you can become whatever it is that you think you are good at. But it's also going to require a lot of dedication and determination, that people excel at things because they just spend more time doing it, pretty much.
Well, it's interesting that you said that, because I was just seeing some commercials on, I think it was MSNBC, and they're doing every so often the commercial breaks, and they come on, and it's all about like the Olympics that are coming up, and then they have these little snippets of the athletes talking about their dedication, their hard work, the things that they've missed, the weddings, the birthdays, occasions in their own personal lives that they've missed because they had this dedication to their sport, and that's definitely, I think, a group of people that have had to really put other things on hold to concentrate on developing the skill. So I just think that's really interesting. I just started seeing those on television. Just reminds us that sometimes we just don't come into this life being gifted with something. Like you said, we really have to find, well, what interests me, and then from there, then I can take lessons from the masters or whoever, and to cultivate that particular talent or interest.
Oh yeah, and that's a whole mindset. I mean, they've done studies with that. That there are people that have fixed mindsets, and then there are people that have growth mindsets, and a lot of it has to do with how you approach things. But if you have this opening or opportunity for growth, I definitely say capitalize on it. Go with it. And the more you expose yourself to whatever it is that you're interested in, then you gain momentum, and then you start to see that you can do certain things, that you can cultivate capabilities. And you also learn that there are a lot of transferable skills that you can bring from things that you have spent time doing. and then also apply it to other things.
So now is a good time to maybe take that thought or something that you want to do and let it just bud and blossom into something that you want to realize. So this time, this spring equinox is, a good time for us to really maybe start doing something, start putting something in motion. And then now you're saying, so next month, Taurus, is when we actually want to actively pursue it. Is that what we should do in Taurus?
Well, in Taurus, you perpetuate it. That you actually develop things that will sustain the momentum. Because Taurus is a fixed sign, which is part of the sustaining force of the universe. So you've got the creating, the sustaining, and then when things go into Gemini, that's a whole different mindset that accompanies that, and that's where you really have to decide whether whatever it is that you want to do, if you want to take it, if you want to finish it, or if you want to perpetuate it. And that's when we do that in what's called, in the mutable sign, which is dissolving force of the universe. So you can either take it beyond its apex and finish it up, or you can hold it more towards the middle and perpetuate it.
I have to remember that so that we can talk about that on Theory 2 class and see how we're all doing with that. That could be good lessons for us to do on our Thursday night programs. So it's almost about that time that we have to start closing down our program. But what I'd like to ask you is, this equinox that's coming up right now, and we know that it's in Aries and it happens every year, to really best take advantage of this energy is now we're saying that we want to be able to come up with something, whether it's a plan or whatever, because I really want to utilize this for everybody to maximize their spiritual growth. So maybe come up with some aspect of their own yoga training and maybe use this time to concentrate on lifting that up.
And one of the things when it does come to yoga training, to me, it's always going back to your basics. Am I employing skillful use of thought, skillful use of breath, skillful use of water, skillful use of food, skillful use of exercise? Am I connected to the life force? Am I using what I need to produce the feeling that I'm happy? And just rechecking, making sure that you're drawing from the right energy field is of the utmost importance. That you're using what you need to produce the feeling you're happy. And what does that look like when you're doing it? That breath is your party, breath is your beloved, breath is your new drug of choice. And you feel connected to something that's pure, powerful, and sacred consistently.
Sounds great. Okay, so, and listeners, I'd like to invite you out there to please visit our website. You can follow Swami on Pinterest and Twitter and Facebook. And be sure to visit the website, www.ipdtransform.com. Once there, you can post comments about this show or any ideas for shows you may want us to consider. Keep those comments, questions, and curiosities coming because Swami does enjoy hearing from you. Be sure to tune in next week. I believe we're going to be celebrating Easter next week. You can email me at lisa@ipdtransform.com with any questions you would like Swami to answer for you. And so, Swami, any final thoughts or comments about our discussion today?
Well, I would like to wish everybody a happy spring and enjoy the snowstorm. And with that, wish everybody a good day. Namaste. Yeah,
so I'll have fun. Hopefully one more time clearing out the snow. We'll see what happens. And thank you for listening to our program, The Voice of Yoga. This is Lisa Winton, along with Swami Jayananda, signing off. Have a wonderful Kriya Yoga kind of day. Namaste.